It's Saturday the 1st of December and I'm on the Sihanouk Boulevard in Phnom Penh in front of the Naga World Complex. I thought it'd be a nice quiet place, and it is in a way, there's just a bit of building work around. So to continue the story, I was in Bangkok and I made a dreary video because I'd just woken up and I got back safely. So I thought, pretty much the first night I was here, I thought I'll just pop in the cinema, see who's on. And there was a lady there working. I got chatting and she's by herself. And I mentioned who I was. And of course, having been there a year, the longest ever volunteer, I'm semi-famous. And I'd pretty much agreed to volunteer again the same night. And I don't know if I half knew in my heart that's what was going to happen. Because let's face it, since I left, apart from dislocating my arm, I just haven't really spoken to anybody, which is just, so it's good to go back. That's really, I remember I posted to the Facebook group, I'm leaving, just before I left, and all these people that know me from there, she was just saying, well, this is where you belong. So I was back on. And this lady, she stayed long term. She's an American called Celia. And quite quickly, we got on and could speak really, really well. But like, early red flag, she said to me, she mentioned sociology. And she said that that's her degree subject. And it's one of the driving forces in her life. It's how she orientates herself and how she understands herself in the world. But that was like a bit of a red flag, to be honest. There's someone who says your main orientation in the world is sociology. Come on. Well, as it turns out, she was just such a needy kind of person. She had this kind of sense that she was at the center of a universe. Like the way that she used sociology was to divide up the world into various social groups. And of course, the social group she belongs to is always the one that is just slightly better than all the other groups. And she had this, it was almost like a catchphrase, look, it's not about hierarchy. And that's a red flag again in itself, because I never mentioned the word hierarchy. The fact that she kept bringing this up. And I realized that, something that I already knew, and that is that so much of the world, so much of the chatter in the world, so much of the stories, not that we weave around ourselves, that we read around ourselves, but that also just the discourse of society also weaves about the differences between groups and the ones that you belong to, and that forms a lot of identity in people, and that just forms a lot of our suffering. But as I got to know her, then she'd been given permission to perform rituals in the movie room. So she was doing that with a couple of other women that she'd met online, locally. Another thing was, there was this guy coming then who she knew when she was at school, and she said that, it was the thing she was hoping for. She's created it with a ritual. So this guy's going to come and he absolutely worships the ground that she walks on. I think that he literally worships her. It's something to do with the ritual she was doing in the cinema. Anyway, one thing that I found out from her is about this thing that the boss is doing. Like, I always known he was a bit lecherous around women, mainly because of couch surfing. He's got maybe in a month he has 2 couch surfers, but they're always like young women, and he's quite famous for, taking them out and wining, dining them. But I've had a lot of complaints about, the border on harassment. Well, she said that she found out he made this business called Mr. M because when he finishes the cinema, he wants to go on to do a tantric masseur business, and she found the online website for it under a pseudonym. But his identity was ousted online, and basically it's about tantric massage and opening the base chakra. But then he goes on about this shedding your sexual inhibitions, and there are testimonials from the women about what an amazing time they've had, and it's very clearly well, what can only be described, if it was, the gender was reversed, it would just be called an online prostitution business. It was really quite something else. It's thing after thing with him. Well, he left for a month to Sri Lanka because he wants to. The lease finishes in April, and he's going to just go and maybe start another cinema there. He's not sure. But one thing he did was we had a tip jar on the counter, and he was here and he was talking to me. We were doing some. I can't remember why he was here. And he walked off and he left. And then he put a message on the chat, on the online chat, saying, we're not doing tips anymore. And when I looked, the tip jar's gone. And there's quite a bit of money there. So I said, where's the money that was in it? He said, no, it's just small change. And that was it. And he just stole the tips. And that was a real downer. Another thing that happened was that we're talking about things going on with thieves. There was this ongoing theft that kept occurring. Because there are ever-changing volunteers here, then occasionally a Khmer person would walk in and they'd have the first time it happened, it was a great big vat of olive oil. And they put it down, they said to the volunteer, $45 for the oil. And the volunteers they're trained to just pay money. So they paid it, walked off. We knew nothing about it. We don't need olive oil, we don't sell it. So some delivery guy's just stolen this off his boss and dumped it on us. Of course, our boss is such a hustler, he can go out with this huge vat of olive oil, and within a couple of hours, he's managed to sell it to somebody. Well, a couple of weeks later, it happened again with a full-size block of mozzarella. We got a message on the chat. The volunteer says, what's this huge block of cheese for? How did the customers buy it? And of course, we don't need cheese. We don't want that. It happened again. But of course, this person made the mistake of coming in with a huge box full of cartons of apple juice, which we don't sell. But I was on duty. I knew straight away what was going on. I said to him, look, this is rubbish. And I snatched some paperwork out of his hand so I could get the address, started taking pictures. He grabbed it and ran off, and I got pictures of him running away. Then I got pictures of the bike, and the boss went online, found out who he works for, and we got an email back from them saying that this guy was fired. So that was a bit of excitement. Another bit of excitement was Lucas, who I volunteered with about 6 months before. He went off to New Zealand with a working holiday visa. Well, he came back, volunteered again. He's still there now, and he's got a girl he met, a local girl on Tinder. So they're kind of getting together. And talking about long-term relationships, I hooked up again with Kevin, whom I met he was working where I was working, and I'd had lunch with him previously, and he'd gone off to England because he's got bad hips and he's going to need to use the NHS. So because of that, he's decided to live for 3 months of a year in England. So he arranged some job online picking apples with a load of Eastern Europeans living in a dormitory on a farm, and he went and did that for 3 months, which, as far as I'm concerned, is total lunacy. I mean, personally, I'm going to need to use healthcare at some point, and if it means doing something that's going to... 3 months in a year is a quarter of your life, so you're living in misery, doing something that you hate. Okay, to save yourself tens of thousands of dollars in operations. I guess maybe it's something I have to think of, but... at some point you put your chips down, don't you? And just decide where you live, and the hell or high water. And I think maybe I should just put my chips down with Cambodia. So he came to the cinema a little while later. He said, I'll drop you some books off. And he dropped these books off, and they're really highbrow books about Hun Sen and Cambodia. And now I feel kind of obligated to read them. It's I don't think so. Another thing that happened, I bumped into David, my ex-boss, from the school to find out he's resigning, and the other school is basically dissolving. It's all gone badly for them. Another thing that happened was, one morning, I was back in my old room at the guest house, which is one of the best rooms I've ever had, really. I really feel comfortable there. And I woke up and could hear all this shouting, and I was really, really coughing. And when I looked over my bed, there's this thick layer of smoke. So I put on my shorts, looked into the hallway, smoke everywhere. Of course, one of the rooms is on fire. Turns out some guy fell asleep. Everybody was drunk, and they think that he threw a cigarette out the window and it bounced back onto the empty bed because he was alone in a twin room. So I had to then, same day, just move and go to a lower room, and I'm still there, although I actually prefer it. Anyway, Celia left after a while. Ran away for a month to Sri Lanka, me running it. Well, basically me and Lucas ourselves. There was a Polish guy, Marek, who left recently, and there was an Italian guy, and he left yesterday in the middle of the night with no notice because the next volunteer arrived early, so he was just immediately thrown out. I got a new phone, which is why I'm making much better videos and getting more stuff done. And my niece, she messaged me to say she already said she wants to sell the house. After my aunt died, I got a house, and we own it half each. And she wanted to sell it but changed her mind, and now she does again. So she went to the estate agent, but they said to her it's not allowed till August because the tenants have got a contract that the landlord won't change during the course of the tenancy, so she can't actually sell. But I wonder if there's something wrong because she owes me about 2 months rent now and nothing's come. And a while ago I had a dream that my aunt came to me and she looked really upset, like she had bad news, and I said to her, look, what's the news? But she couldn't talk, and I had a feeling it was cancer, something about cancer. And she looked at me and she said, I said, look, if you can't say what it is, say when. So she said November. So I'm not sure what is going on, but I get this feeling that, there's something wrong. But then again, I don't know her that well. Maybe she just doesn't want to have a relationship, because she was really close to my mother and my aunt, and if they're both dead now, then I guess she doesn't want that. Or she might not want the time it takes to know someone like me, because let's face it, I'm a drifter and there's a good chance she'll never see me again. And she's only ever seen me once. Lastly, my news is I'm still studying website design. I've made a really good website I'm really happy with. It's on free servers at the minute, but it's like a publishing and a SEO marketing business, and it's going to mean that I can apply for more jobs and apply for much better volunteering, or kind of move on if the cinema isn't going to work out for me. Or if it does, then it's a skill that ties in to what I'm already doing. So that's the main thing that I've been working on. And when that's done, I'll start looking about carrying on with a diagnosis to find out what is physically wrong with me, and thinking about how long I've got. So that is sociology. Sensation. To talk about sensation the way that I wanted to, and magic and the law of attraction, or using your mind to create the reality that you want. That's something that's been a real focus of my life, and what I'm doing now, and what I've done in the past, and probably what I'll end up doing. And one thing I wanted to say was that there's kind of a central discrepancy where you imagine the future that you want, and you need to feel it, to believe it, to receive it. So you feel the emotion now of how it would feel if you had it. And okay, so you're happy and you're excited, and if you're doing it properly, there's not excitement, there's just joy. They're not the same thing, but there's the feeling that you have it now. And what I used to find was that, before I got the trick of this, was that it causes a lot of yearning. Because, okay, so in one sense, on the inside, you're feeling inner joy and happiness. But then you open your eyes, and there's discrepancy, because the thing that was causing it, you haven't got now. And eventually this feeling of dissatisfaction or yearning for things to be different comes up. And that's not good. Okay. So, in one of the Buddhist sutras, it's one of the well-known ones, it introduces mindfulness. The Buddha gives an analogy of a sack full of beans. So there's mung beans and kidney beans and lentils, although I don't know if lentils are beans or not, but there are different ones. And he talks about pulling the bag apart and seeing all the different things inside of the bag, being aware. So it's an analogy to when you're being mindful, you look at the mental pictures in your mind, and you can feel the physical sensations on the edge of your body, like where you're sitting or where you're standing, but also the sensations inside, because the sensations are actually your emotions, as I keep saying, unless you see yourself if you look inside. So if you feel joy, when you look at that's a label, and there's mental pictures, and then there's a sensation of that, which is kind of an uplifted feeling, as opposed to, say, feeling despondent or unhappy, which is kind of a heavy feeling. And the trick, I think, with magic and creating reality is that you imagine what you want, say with your eyes closed, and you're visualizing, and you're happy and you're joy, but the sensations very much ground yourself to the present passing moment here. Anything that pulls you away from the present moment is not good. It's a negative. So, and then when you're out in the daytime, maybe there's the thought or a very, very brief mental picture. Oh, this is, the magic that's unfolding in the future, and this is this is how my life is going to be. And then there's the feeling of joy that arises. But that mental picture fades very quickly. It's almost like lighting a match, and like the sulfur catches and the flame comes up, but then it goes down again very, very quickly. That mental picture fades, but the sensation that being, well, you'll know what it is. You look inside, it's very, very vague. This is really this wispy ghost causing everything that we fight and strive for in life. Joy and happiness and satisfaction is just these wispy sensations. But they're here in the body. You can't be attached to a sensation from the past or the future. Sensations are now, and that's really the anchor to the present. So when you're doing magic, if you get too dreamy, if you're like 80% in your mind with the pictures and you're 20% in the world with the sensations and what you're seeing with your eyes and what you're feeling with your body, you're out, you're skew-if. You need to flip it. Be 80% in the world with the sensations in the body. So the joy, the labeling of the joy, maybe the brief flashing mental pictures of how the future will be. That's drawn, but don't let those very ghostly pictures draw you away from the present. Let the sensation of now and the sensation of your vision and what you're experiencing here keep you anchored here. And if what's happening here is a negative, if it's not that good, if it's causing sensations which are heavy or downward, just keep it all separate and keep on watching, because if you're feeling despondent or hopeless, it's just a different vagueness in the sensation. Life really is a dream, and you need to really stay as anchored to the present moment as you can, because then while you are creating joy in the present and maybe a better future, it's really the awareness of the passing sensation that will slowly but surely cause awakening to unfold in your mind. Okay, 16 minutes I've been nattering, so I will get on back to the cinema and back to work. Thanks for listening, and I will update soon.